Welcome to the Seller Roundtable e-commerce coaching and business strategies with Andy Arnott and Amy Wees.
That was a good point you made earlier too about, English being the second, most prevalent language in India. That's a huge, when you think about it, if you could call, we were talking about China earlier, if you could call somebody in China, manufactured in China over the phone and, and be able to communicate with them, that would be a game changer. So when you're going to India, that's a huge benefit in the fact that, there's not that huge language barrier or, I know a lot of times when we're talking to our sourcing agent in China, like, even though she speaks fairly, English fairly well, there's sometimes where we have to like go back and be like, no, this is what we meant. Like at one point I remember saying like, hey, I'm really looking for, quality is, the most important thing, but, we're trying to keep it within this price range. And then she was like, well, which one's more important? And I said, well, quality. And she goes, it was just kind of a funny exchange. But the fact that you can get on the phone, I think is a huge benefit.
Right. And then, of course, the accents may be different because in India, there are different languages. And so the accents will vary a lot from region to region. So you won't have everybody speaking the same accent, and that might be an issue as well. And of course, everyone has different, levels, language levels are different. But what's important is that in most cases, you'll be able to also talk to people, on the assembly lines, like the actual people who are, manufacturing the product, like the engineers or, the actual R&D staff, for example, or people who are helping develop your products. I think in China, in most cases, the people who are actually doing the production don't speak English, and that can be a challenge as well because you have to communicate via via the salesperson in most cases, and also in China the factory boss in many cases doesn't speak English, right? I mean, the owners of the factories, they typically don't speak English, whereas in India that's not the case.
I know that I would be remiss if I didn't speak up here. I've never dealt with a Chinese supplier where I haven't been able to speak to the operations manager at a factory where they haven't spoken English. And I've never had a problem getting on a WeChat call and having the factory owner speak English. So that I think it's great that there are suppliers in India that speak English, but you're right about the supply, the actual like people who are working the line. In most cases, they're not going to speak English, right, in China. But dealing with factory owners, we don't take translators with us on our China sourcing trip. We take people on factory tours. We've never had a problem with English being spoken fluently. And now it's not always like perfect English, right? There are sometimes some language barriers and communication barriers. So maybe that is better in India. But I want to say that generally in China, I haven't had a problem with that. So
correct. Yeah, I totally agree with you. China is the world's factory, and like millions of buyers are sourcing from there. So yeah, it's not a challenge as such, but it just can be a bit smoother in India. That's
I can see like how the smaller factories where you'd be able to speak to the people actually making your product along the way, all of them, not just people, where in China, you really only have like the factory owner and the sales staff and, those folks that speak good English, right? But it's pretty cool to think in India that we would have a whole staff that would speak English pretty well. So that is an advantage, I think, on that side of things. But I just wanted to say that there are people in China that speak good English as well.
Oh, yes, they do. That definitely.
Absolutely.
Thanks for tuning in. Join us every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for live Q&A and bonus content after the recording at SellerRoundtable.com. Sponsored by the ultimate software tool for Amazon sales and growth, SellerSEO.com and AmazingAtHome.com.